Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're just thrilled that you're here to share this very deep and wonderful practice that we think will really help in your journey as caregivers. Next to me here is our presenter, Pamela Patrick, and I will say no more. I'll let her speak for herself, and we're just delighted. And Luana, I think we're ready to share your screen. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, aloha, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you. It's really a privilege to sit with you and share the practice of meditation. There's just a short little blurb about myself here. You can see it on your screen. I'm just going to quickly read it. It's very short. I'm an octogenarian who's been practicing meditation for 30 years. Most recently, I've studied, practiced, and taught meditation at the Tucson Meditation Center at Wat Buddha Metta in Tucson, Arizona. I have taught mindfulness meditation to both children and adults. My approach to the practice of meditation incorporates present moment awareness and kindness towards self. So I'd like to begin with a definition or two in preparation for our meditation. So the first definition that I'd like to offer, you won't see on your screen, but it's a very simple and a very short definition, and it is that meditation is a mental state that can be described as present moment awareness. It is a time when the mind and the body are present together. And many of you are familiar with the phrase, be here now. Well, that we hear that so much. And this is exactly what that sometimes overused phrase is referring to, bringing that body and mind together at one time to be together and in the present moment. Mindfulness is the word you're going to see described on your screen. And mindfulness is a mental state that can be achieved by bringing awareness to the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, bodily sensations without judgment or interpretation. And the important part here is that there's some time spent on spelling out the importance of acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations as they are experienced in the present moment. These things, these feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations arise and they pass away. And as we experience these in meditation, and I'll talk more about this later, the important thing is that we are mindful of them, or we can also use the word aware of them, without getting into judgment, interpretation, or a story. This is something that I think all of us automatically go to, is that act of judging something or interpreting it, or definitely conjuring up a story about it. So this is something that we will not be doing. As we develop our meditation practice, we begin to notice an increased ability to be present and focused, whatever we're doing. Caring for a loved one, driving our car, preparing for a meal, talking with the doctor or friends, whatever it may be, the practice of meditation will help support that ability to be mindful in the present moment. With practice, we begin to know, to see, and to feel just whatever is happening for what it is, without judging, without spinning out into a story. We simply know a thing for what it is. And again, we might come back to a familiar phrase that we hear repeated so often. It is what it is. I'm sure all of you have heard that spoken. And this is really what this is saying to us, what it's meaning to us. And in meditation, that becomes a very real thing to be developed, just knowing something just for what it is. So next, how can the practice of regular meditation support our overall well-being? And in this next slide, we have a listing there of 3 ways or 3 things that we can improve upon or build or cultivate through the practice of meditation. The first one is cultivation of clarity and peace in present moment awareness. As caregivers, we are all called upon to tend to the needs of our loved ones. This in itself requires a tremendous amount of energy, a tremendous amount of planning, of presence, attention to detail, physical, nutritional, and emotional support, both for ourselves and for those for whom we are caring. And we come here to a very important piece, and that is that unless we are able to care for ourselves and maintain our own well-being, it will be difficult, perhaps even impossible, to care for another in any kind of sustainable way. What are some ways that we offer ourselves this gift? How can we care for ourselves? What are some of the things we can do? Certainly, eating nutrient-dense food supports us. Getting out of the house, getting some fresh air, some sunshine, some exercise. Interacting and maintaining our friendships. Continuing those relationships we have with the ones outside of perhaps even our family that we really hold dear to our hearts. Setting aside time to be still and very quiet. Setting aside time to sort of let things settle and calm. And this is where meditation comes in. Taking time to be still or quiet, to slow down the constant loop of thoughts. We set down the hour-to-hour, the day-to-day to-do lists. This can be very challenging. I think the important thing to realize here is that when we do that, when we set those things down, we're not abandoning them. We're not saying, oh, it just doesn't matter. I'm not going to pay attention to that anymore. It's too much. No, what we're doing is we're simply setting those things aside during this time that we have for ourselves, this time of meditation. And we know that after our designated period of meditation, those things will be there and they will be waiting for us. Regular meditation practice offers a time to quietly sit and to cultivate the ability to just be with ourselves without judgment or without critiquing. I think critiquing is something that so many of us do all the time. With practice, we strengthen our capacity to focus on simply the present moment at hand. Meditation has been shown to cultivate calm, peace, and acceptance. And I would like to invite you to do some investigation of your own using the vast resources that we have available online and in our local libraries and bookstores. Certainly, there are so many resources out there available to you, and they're not hard to find. They can be found, for instance, on the computer by just going into Google and clicking mindfulness meditation, for instance, just those two words. And oh my goodness, you'll have so many things coming up. And look around, look here and there and see, what resonates with you. And that's very important, what resonates with you. What you find to be of support, what really speaks to you. The second thing is the cultivation of concentration. This certainly supports our overall well-being. As caregivers, we are called upon to wade through oftentimes stacks of medical bills, legal documents. We need to administer and to understand medications. All of this requires a high degree of focus and concentration. The third thing in this list of how meditation may support our well-being is the cultivation of mindfulness. And again, as caregivers, it is our essential responsibility to be present. We need to refine and to grow our capacity for present moment awareness, bringing the body and the mind together. I think all of us have experienced times when we know that we are present for another person. The thing that comes to mind for me oftentimes is meeting someone, say, at an event or taking a walk, and we begin to engage in a conversation with them, and our body is right there. We're face to face with them, and we hear them talking. And yet our mind has somehow wandered off to, oh, I think I should be on my way, or, oh my gosh, I don't have time for this, or I wonder, what I'm going to be doing later on today. I hope I have time to finish my walk. And all of a sudden, the person stops talking and we're aware of having this conversation, but actually we've really not heard anything. We have no idea, what's been said. So this is an example of how we might have experienced that in the past, or how we could experience it at any time. So bringing that body and mind together is very important, and I believe especially for caregivers. Having the body in one place and the mind somewhere else can have consequences that can be unpleasant, especially when we think of it in terms of our role as caregivers. So we can go to the next slide. I'd like to talk a little bit about preparing to meditate. And I'd also like to say that there will be time for questions later on. And so as questions come up for you, make a little note of it perhaps. And I'll be so happy to respond as best I can. So how do we prepare for meditation? Because certainly we need to, we have to make, we have to make effort here. There have to be accommodations that are made. So I like to, first of all, say that in preparation for meditation, it's important to establish attitude and intention. So before we even sit down to meditate, we take time to invite an attitude of loving kindness and compassion towards ourselves first and foremost. And then we extend that to others. We offer our intention to come to the meditation practice with an open heart and to hold ourselves in an embrace of tenderness, of kindness. This is so important. The practice of mindfulness meditation is one of loving kindness. It's one of tenderness. It's one of great care and great sensibility towards ourselves. We want to be easy on ourselves. We want to be kind, loving, and we want to embrace ourselves with all tenderness. Choosing a time and place, that is an important point for sure. Ideally, we can choose a time and place where we can have quiet, we can have a degree of privacy, and a time when we can turn off our phones. And I understand the challenges involved here. This might take some time and creativity, but it can be done. In order to do this, one of the most important things I think to take into consideration is communicating with the other people who live in your space, communicating with the person for whom you are caring, communicate with other people who may live in your home. Do this, if possible, in a way that simply indicates your intention to sit and to have this time for yourself. Communication is very important here. I think, if all of a sudden one day we just, pop in and say, okay, well, I'm going to go now. I'm going to go sit down and I'm not going to be available for about a half hour. So I'll see you in a half hour. That's not going to work very well. That's not going to be something that's going to be received with very much of a welcome. So taking that time to really explain what's going on, what it is you're wanting, and how it is you're going to do it. These all really become important. Susan's writing something down for me right now.
I'm just offering here that if the person you're caring for is not capable of understanding what it is you're doing or want to do, you may need to find another way to convey than just the normal way, just by being quiet, or maybe just, giving them a space by themselves. You have to be creative. If the person you're caring for has dementia and can't comprehend easily what you're doing.
Yes, and you may also, if there's more than the two of you living in the home, this is when it becomes important to perhaps enlist the support of that other person for that period, that half-hour period. It's a good time to say, this is what I'd like to do, and I would appreciate your help here. So communication in choosing the time and place. Sometimes it really takes a bit of effort and energy to work out a plan with everyone concerned. And it is important that you arrive at a plan that works both for yourself and for others. And with that, I'd like to say, just do your best. And that's certainly the most any of us can do. Here I have made a list of things to consider during the practice of meditation. And soon we will actually be engaging in the practice of meditation so that you have an opportunity to put to use some of the things that I've talked about. First of all, though, I'd like to go through this list, which I've generated about practicing meditation. This is kind of the nuts and bolts of the practice. So, even before I start that, I'd want to interject here something that I would like to comment on to give some context. First of all, meditation is not a religion. And it's also not a time to zone out. I know many people have the misconception of, meditating, we're zoning out and going off into, this other place. It's not that. And it's certainly not a religion. And it is also not a time to set expectations for ourselves, like, this time I'm not going to have any thoughts. This time I'm not going to move. This time I'm not going to let my mind wander. We're not going to set any of those expectations out for ourselves. It's not appropriate, and it doesn't support the practice in any way. What is important here is to come to the practice willing to be ready to bring full awareness to whatever it is that comes up, to gently, lovingly bring the mind, bring your awareness, then back to the breath. So what it is being here now. It is knowing and allowing whatever it is to come up, because, and I will say this very clearly now, it is the nature of the mind to think. It is the nature of the body to feel and have physical sensations. It is our natures to experience all of that. And the practice of meditation is not designed or meant to banish any of that. That's not it. The practice of meditation is to bring awareness to whatever it is that comes up without judgment or without attaching stories to it. So being here now, that's what this is all about. In an effort to be able to do that, we choose a posture that will best support our body in a way that we can be alert in our minds. For the chosen period of time of sitting, whatever that might be, whatever amount of time you want to take for this. And some of you who have been meditating a while may take out 15 to 30 minutes for meditation. Those of you who are just beginning might want to start with 5 minutes. Whatever that is fine. That is just right. Only you can, there is, 5 minutes isn't inferior to 20, half hour isn't really, oh, well, that's so much better than 10, we're not going to go there. It's not about that. It's about how you begin and where you are in your process, in your practice of comfort. This is a practice where we should experience some comfort. In meditation, there are several kinds of postures that are traditionally accepted. We can sit on a cushion if we like, on the floor. We can sit in a chair. Sitting in a chair is a fine position. The only thing to be aware of, if you do choose to sit on a chair, make sure that you're sitting in a chair so that you can have your feet, both feet, on the floor instead of dangling in the air. I'm short, and so oftentimes when I sit down on a chair, my legs are kind of dangling. So if I'm sitting on a chair to meditate, I want to make sure that my chair allows me to place my feet firmly on the floor. There are other postures of meditation as well. Standing is one, walking is one, and depending on your physical state, reclining is also an acceptable position in meditation. For some people, it may be the only position possible at that time. And if that is the case, then we can choose that position knowing full well that that is fine. It's okay. So we're going to make that decision based on our physical conditions, how we're feeling and what's going on. These physical conditions may change for us. We may be able in the future to sit on a cushion or sit on a chair instead of recline. And when those conditions change, we go ahead and change up that posture. Just knowing that whatever position it is, we want to support the body for the period of meditation practice. So let's see, we've checked our posture. We're going to be here now and bring our full awareness to the body. We're going to establish a single focus object of meditation, which is the breath. We do this when we begin by simply taking a few deep, generous breaths in and out. We just do this a few times, and we do this in order to fully become aware of the breath. Many people ask, why the breath? Why is it that meditators often point to the breath as a point of focus or an anchor point in the meditation? Well, there are a few reasons for that. One is it's ever present, it's always there, it's always available to us, and we can feel it. It's something we can actually feel. If we need to find the breath and we're breathing in and out and we're not sure, oh, I'm not sure I feel that, well, okay, we can place our hand on our abdomen or on our chest and take deep breaths. And if we weren't able to find the breath before, we can for sure find it now, because we're going to feel the abdomen or the chest rising with that in-breath and falling with that exhalation. Meditation is a wonderful practice. It doesn't take any special equipment. We don't have to go out and buy anything. We don't have to invest in special clothes, special shoes, no special equipment needed here. We have everything we have. Everything we have for this, everything we need for this is just right here. We have it all. The next thing on this list is using mental notation to acknowledge or name our present moment of reality with a single word. This is a tool. This is a very interesting and helpful tool that we can consider using as something that will help us anchor ourselves or enable us to focus or bring our focus back to that chosen focus point of breathing. So what is that mental notation? What is it? I'll give you an example. During the period of meditation, even though we begin by being absolutely focused, feeling that breath, being able to note breathing in or noting the feeling of rising and falling of the breath. We can note those things as it happens, or perhaps even just the word up and down, or in or out. We're going to start off there, but inevitably, at some point, all of a sudden, we're going to become mindful and aware. And it might surprise us. I know when I began meditating, I would be surprised. I would go, oh my gosh, I'm thinking now. Oh, so I became aware that my mind had wandered. And now I'm thinking. So now what do we do about that? Well, we employ that technique of mental notation where we just very quietly in our minds mentally note thinking, thinking, just that one word repeated a couple of times. It seems to signal whatever that train of thought was, that you see it. You're not going to engage with it. You're not going to have a conversation with it, but you do see it. And you're choosing now to bring your focus, your attention and awareness back to the breath. So we can use that mental notation no matter what happens. It might be a thought, in which case we can simply acknowledge thinking and then come back to the breath. It may be a feeling that we become aware of, an overriding feeling that just comes over us. And it's now entered into our field of awareness. And we know it, and we can recognize it, and we can name it. We can make note of it with a word. Perhaps angry, perhaps sad, perhaps overwhelmed, perhaps peaceful, or calm or happy, whatever that feeling may be that kind of comes into our awareness. We notice it. We are mindful. This is mindfulness. We've become mindful of what has come in to our present moment of reality. We see it, we note it, and we come back to our breathing. So that number 6, what do we do after we've noticed that our focus has shifted from our breath to a thought or a feeling? Well, we notice, we name, and we return to the breath. Those 3 things. And it's interesting. I like to give an example of how that mental notation or using that single word can kind of short circuit what's going on so that we're able to then bring the focus back to the breath. How many times have you been in a grocery store and you're going through the aisles and you become aware of this mother who's got 2 or 3 kids with her, and there's a little one in the cart, and this child is just creating a fuss. They're creating a fuss. They're yelling, they're carrying on, and mom is so overwhelmed, and she's got these other kids, and she's got her list, and so she just keeps going down that aisle, and she just keeps looking for what she's looking, and the kid keeps screaming and keeps going with all of that until that parent, mom or dad, grandma or grandpa, whoever that might be, acknowledges that child, makes eye contact, says, I hear you. It sort of short circuits all of the hollering, all of the yelling. And in that case, we can find out from the child what it is and go forward. In the case of meditation, we acknowledge it. It short circuits it. And then we can return back to the breath. And I think this is something that you will notice with practice. It's actually remarkable. I I find it remarkable. I just think of it as a short circuit, this tool that just kind of stops whatever it is in the track. It's like, okay. And that acknowledgement is so different than, getting into a conversation with whatever that is, or making a judgment about whatever that is, or critiquing whatever that is. No, none of that. Boy, that really gets into the big deal there, and enlarges and expands all of it and takes us farther and farther away. But by not acknowledging, we have that freedom then to just simply bring things back to where we have chosen for the mind to rest, and that's with the breath. And number 7, after all of this, we just proceed without self-criticism, judgment, or doubt. We proceed by bringing the focus back to the breath. And we do this again and again and yet again. And we do it gently. We do it kindly. Every time. We do it with patience, and we do it with compassion. And all of us do that whether we have been practicing meditation for 30 years or 3 days. It doesn't matter. This is the practice. And that's another thing I like to say is it's called a meditation practice because, that's what we're doing, all of us. We are simply practicing. We are practicing this skill of meditation. During this time, I like to turn my camera off. I'll turn my camera on at the end of the meditation, and we'll have time for questions at that time. So let me see if I can do this without too much trouble. I see it now. Okay, so now I have disappeared from your screen. And I would like to begin by inviting you to take a seat. Find a place where you can be comfortable, yet aware. Take a moment to check your posture and bring your attention to the body sitting. The body sitting in this place at this time. The body and the breath breathing itself. Bringing our attention to the head, well supported. The forehead and the eyes softening. The eyes either gently closing or softly gazing downward, half closed. Relax the jaw. Perhaps a smile will come to your lips. This is, after all, your time. This is an act of self-care, for your benefit and for the benefit of those whom you care about. Perhaps roll the head or rock it back and forth and roll the shoulders around for a few moments to release any tension that may be held there. Coming back to dropping the shoulders, relaxing them, placing your hands one on top of the other, cradled on your lap, or perhaps placing your hands palms down on your thighs or your knees. Soften the belly. Feel the sit bones as they support your body. And feel the contact that your body is making with the earth. Let the heart open, softening, filling with loving kindness and compassion for yourself and others. Take some deep, generous breaths now, releasing any heaviness that you may be feeling. Simply be with the body sitting in the midst of all of this. This is a poem called In the World by Bridget Lowry. In the strange early morning half light, we sit. In the cloudiness of our questioning, we sit. In our madness and our clarity, we sit. In the midst of too much to do, we sit. In the warm arms of our shared sorrow, we sit. In community and in loneliness, we sit. In sweet exhaustion, we sit. In the blazing energy of being alive, we sit. Here with the singing crickets, here with each electric bird song, here with the rippling of breezes and the dry grasses, here with the cobwebs and the clouds and the dusty road upon us. Us in the sound and the sound in us. Us in the world and the world in us. In this present moment, be with the body. the body breathing itself. Nothing to do. Simply allow the body and the mind to become more at ease. More at ease with every breath, every in-breath, and every out-breath. Sense yourself as stillness. Sense yourself as stillness surrounded by an ocean of thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. Allow yourself to rest in the present moment awareness, mindful and acknowledging whatever comes up, using mental notation as we notice and acknowledge. Allow all that arises to pass away like clouds moving through the sky, transient, insubstantial, impermanent. Sitting here now in this present moment, you are the awareness that receives it all just as it is, without judgment, without attaching a story, simply knowing a thought is just a thought, a feeling is just a feeling, a sound is just a sound, a physical sensation is just that, a physical sensation. All of these things rising and falling, all subject to change. Mindfully, we sit with the breath, our ever-present chosen object of attention. We notice our minds moving, wandering off to thinking and feeling, becoming aware of thoughts and feelings that come, they arise uninvited. We can notice them and acknowledge them. And just as you would offer your hand to a loved one, we can guide the mind lovingly back home to the present moment of the breath. Continue now on your own for a few minutes. And at the end of the meditation, I'll come back in. This time we'll begin to bring this period of meditation to a conclusion. Sitting for a moment. Before we end, I'd like to dedicate the merit, the goodness of this practice to all beings everywhere. May this mindful practice be for our benefit, for the benefit of all of those whom we care for and love, for the benefit of those whom we'll never know, for the benefit even of those whom we may find difficult. May our practice be for the benefit of all beings everywhere. Begin now to slowly open your eyes, and when you do, become aware of your present moment of seeing.
We invite you with this slide to share, ask questions, so on.
Questions, comments, responses, anything you'd like to share or offer or bring up or add to, certainly would be welcome. So I think we can unmute everyone.
Or you can unmute yourself.
Or you can unmute yourself. Oh, there we both are. Here's Susan.
I want to thank you so much for sharing.
You're so welcome. It's been really my great privilege to be asked to come today and to present this meditation to all of you who give so much, who are so committed to caring for the people you love. Thank you for all you do.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for sharing. I'm Reverend Barbara Galloway Lee, and I do a caregiving support group in Oakland at a church.
Oh,
And I especially love the poem that you read. I didn't get the author's name, but I would love to get a copy of that poem and share it with my group. We meet every Tuesday from noon to 1:30.
Okay.
And thanks again. Okay.
Thank you, and I'll be happy to see that happens. I think we can make that happen.
We will definitely make that happen in several ways. You can email us. I want to know that specific thing. We will also put it in our next newsletter. Clearly, we'll also print it out in the newsletter. And as well, you can listen to this recording again. You'll have access to that. Please let us know if any of that for some reason doesn't work for you, but any way we can, we will make that available. Thank you so much. I saw a question in chat about what is notation?
Yes.
And that's a lovely question.
Yes, mental notation. Mental notation is simply a tool. It's something we can use in our meditation toolbox that helps us to acknowledge whatever it is that we're noticing at the time. For instance, the example of becoming aware of our thoughts, becoming aware that all of a sudden, and we may be surprised by this, we may have been thinking for 5 minutes and just all of a sudden become aware, oh, I've been thinking. So, coming to that mindfulness or that awareness, the technique of notation is simply mentally noting, that's what notation is just noting or saying one or two words in acknowledgement. In the case of thinking, we would simply use the word thinking. Thinking just a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. And then bringing the focus or our awareness back to the breath, which is our designated chosen focus of meditation. As I said before, it may not just be a thought. It could be during meditation that all of a sudden there's 36 sirens going on outside, or here in Hawaii on the 1st of the month, we have these sirens going off that is the tsunami warning system practice, or perhaps we might have dogs howling, or there could be any number of things that could be going on. And in that instance, we're hearing, and so we might simply just acknowledge that by hearing, by saying, noting that word, hearing. Now, that is a very different thing than responding to the hearing with something like, I wish the dog would stop barking. This is really irritating me. I'm trying to have quiet now. This is my meditation time. Why is this going on? Or in the case of a siren, oh, I wonder what's happening. I hope everybody's okay. I wonder if there's been an accident someplace. That's one way of responding to that awareness of the sound. And the other way of acknowledging that, or of that awareness, is to simply, with one word, hearing. And when we do that, we're just acknowledging what it is that's happening. We're hearing. We're not getting into the story of what it is we're hearing, or the worry, or the irritation, or whatever it is that's come up. We're not getting into any of that. You can apply this with thoughts, with feelings, with physical sensations. Physical sensations is something I'd like to just dwell a moment on, because in meditation, especially, I think for people who begin, it often becomes uncomfortable. We often may start to become aware of the physical sensation of a pain. Oh, my knee is really hurting right now. Or, oh, my foot's going to sleep. Or, oh, my back, or my shoulders or head. So we're so aware of that physical sensation. So in the case of the physical sensation, I would like to offer a couple of things here. First of all, acknowledging that sensation is where we'll start. We're going to start with it. Say I've got a pain that's paining me in my right knee, and I want to acknowledge that. And so I'm just going to simply acknowledge it with the word pain. I'm just going to acknowledge it, pain. Sometimes the simple acknowledgement of that physical sensation is enough that it will back off. And this is something that can happen. Sometimes acknowledging that pain isn't going to do it. And so what I like to say to meditators is, even though, the training is we want to be still in our body so that we can be still in our mind, so that we can have a sense of calm, perhaps we develop that. But if we are experience this pain and it simply takes over the whole thing, the whole time, we can then do a couple of things beyond noting it. My meditation teacher taught me years ago, and he said, well, you could make the pain the chosen object of meditation. Okay, so I'm going to now focus, because that's taken over everything. So now I'm going to just focus on that pain. Okay, well, that might be okay, and maybe that's not going to be okay. maybe what really needs to happen is that you make a slight adjustment. You make a slight adjustment. You move it a little bit. You move that knee a little, you move that leg a little, you move your head or your shoulders or your back just a little bit. You do that. The important thing to do in this case is, as you are doing that, mentally note moving. You want to acknowledge what's happening in that present moment. If it's moving, if you have acknowledged it, you have focused on it, you tried some strategies, nothing's working, and so yeah, okay, I need to do some moving here. If that's what it comes to, that's okay. You do that, but as you're doing it, you note that present moment reality of moving by simply saying the word moving, moving. And that's how you do it. And you do it over and over again in the whole period of meditation. All of us do it. All of us experience all of these things. So I hope that helps the person who typed that question in. I hope that helps to clarify that a little bit.
Thank you so much,
You're so
Pamela.
welcome.
That was a great explanation of notation. That was really great. Thank you. And also, I felt a lot of relief on the visual of clouds and the impermanence, and not to grasp onto good or bad, or, that was so relaxing. I'm like, whew, so needed. Thank you.
I want to say, Pamela, I so appreciate how much you stressed loving, caring, and gentleness, first to yourself, and then how that permeates what you do and the people you care for. I love how you really expanded and helped us see and understand that. Please, everyone, refer back to the recording. We will include a recap in our next newsletter. And thank you.
You are so welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me, Susan, and thank all of you, each person who came today. Thank you for being here for yourselves and for each other.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Hope to see you
Thank
again.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.